Good morning. Welcome to the morning show with yours truly, Dex the Algo Capitalist. I hope you're having a wonderful start to your day. This morning, as we wake up, markets are a little mixed, pulling back, cooling off a bit, which is very much needed. Hopefully, today's trading will end with a slight pullback, which will allow um, buy signals still to occur over the next couple of days, which will be great because then that would mean that the breakouts that we've seen in Bitcoin, Ethereum, gold, and silver is real and will continue. So we do need the breather, the pullback, the pause, if you will. You don't want runaway markets because that's not a good thing. So you're starting to see some volatility pick up here as well as we're entering this cooling off period, which the market needs. It's been running and ripping and it's getting exhausted and it needs to pull back after hitting new all-time highs and multiple asset classes. And that's what we're waiting to see what's going to happen. Now, on the back of this, the US dollar is holding on to the 104 handle as well. Bulls are defending the dollar at this point at 104.62 as we speak. So we have a lot to get into today. Yesterday, if you remember, was part one. We've been talking about and taking a look into and taking a deeper dive down the rabbit hole of your own nothing and be happy. And what does that really entail? What does that look like? What can we expect from this? And the realization has come over a very short period of time that we are literally starting to see things take place and seeing things move into position perhaps a lot sooner than was realized or thought previously. You always hear, Agenda 2030, Agenda 2040, Agenda 2050, like it's a million years away from now. But the way things have been moving around as of late would suggest that we're closer to the end game than we realized. Now, yesterday we talked about, we entered the rabbit hole. We didn't go that deep, but we entered into the rabbit hole, staring into the abyss. And we were like, okay, so far, what do we see? What does this hole look like? And we saw that things are being moved into place. Just like military campaigns and wars, you move assets into place and you strategize your positioning on the battlefield. Well, that's what we've been seeing with one of the tentacles, is reaching out into the real estate market. And we've seen large corporations, sovereign wealth funds, hedge funds, whatever you want to call them or label them, snatching up residential real estate. Now, this is a epic event because it's not something that has ever been seen before. All right. The only big player in residential real estate has always been the federal government by the way of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. All right. They had the monopoly. Well, when Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac blew up and you don't hear those names mentioned anymore, that's because now corporations have now moved in and said we will pick up this slack. So instead of doing things the way they used to be done, things are being done in reverse. The Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac entities were supposed to, issue these mortgages, and they would even, you could even sell mortgages back to them, things like that. But now we have corporations coming in, and instead of giving mortgages, they're buying and snatching up people's property. They're snatching up foreclosures and fixer-uppers as well as expensive homes, big jumbo loan type homes. They're picking them up. They're snatching them up everywhere. They're buying up entire neighborhoods worth, all right, in some places. And this has never been done before. Now, of course, corporations have always, you know, built skyscrapers and things like that, medical office parks, industrial parks, of course, but not residential real estate, not on the scale that we're seeing it now. And it's fitting because we have already been told or preconditioned to understand that going forward, we will own nothing and be happy about it. So I want to go a little bit further into this rabbit hole to really dissect the intent of what is being stated by you will own nothing and be happy. And like I said, maybe we're closer to your own nothing than we realize. Of course, if you have not already done so, you want to smash that like button and subscribe. If you haven't already done so, hit the little bell icon so you can be notified when we're going live. All right. And also postwavetrading.com, which is sponsoring the morning show. You can go there right now and you can sign up for the attack reports. It is the premier investment tool that everyone needs to have in their arsenal. I don't care if you invest in crypto or Forex or equities or commodity futures, you need the attack reports. These daily reports come out and they not just predict, but they inform you as to the current market conditions and the potential moves for the next 24 hours ahead of it happening. Very powerful. Can't live without the attack reports. Get yours today at postwavetrading.com. All right. Hopefully you got your cup of coffee. You got a comfortable chair because we're going to be a while. So just relax. We're going to take our time. We're not going to rush through this. All right. So let's dive in. So I think that maybe we should rephrase this slogan that you'll appear to own things you don't actually control and be happy. I think that is at the heart of the issue. When they say you will own nothing and be happy, what they are really saying is you'll appear to own things you don't actually control and be happy. Now, before you smirk and say, yeah, whatever, this is already happening, folks. It's been happening for the last few years. You just haven't noticed it. You say, how? Where? I'll tell you. How many of you listening to me right now are listening to me on a smartphone? Show of hands, okay? How many of you are listening to me by way of a computer, whether it be a laptop, a desktop, or what do you call those flat screen things? A pad, an iPad. Okay. Well, check this out. If you use Microsoft's Windows, I don't care if it's Windows 10, Windows 11, whatever, did you know that you don't control your computer? Nah, it used to be whenever there was a Microsoft update, you would get to choose whether or not you want to even install the update, when and how you decide to install the update or not. But now you no longer have the choice. When there is a Microsoft update, it will update. Now you can ignore it for a while, but at some point it's going to force you to update. And one of the ways that it does that is your computer will start to slow or start acting weird and funky. saying, okay, you need to do this update. And other times it'll just do it on its own, whether you like it or not. Another thing that Microsoft has been doing through its Windows program is forced advertisement. And what I mean by that is you can be doing whatever you're doing on your computer, working on a spreadsheet or, surfing the web, watching, social media, whatever, right? And all of a sudden, this thing will pop out on your computer, taking up the entire screen. And what is it? It's an advertisement from Microsoft for Windows 11 or whatever the thing is they want to communicate to you. You're forced. This is forced upon you. You can't control that or turn it on or off. It's going to pop up whenever they want it to. And let's not forget, a few years ago, remember when people were reporting that things were deleted off their computer files and things of that nature? Those of you who are my research sleuths, you can help me with this one, because I may be off a bit. But I do recall, like, there was a time when, like, remember the file sharing? Excuse me, with music and stuff. Remember Napster and LimeWire? I I do recall something like if you didn't own the rights to the music, it was removed and deleted off your computer. You guys who know what I'm talking about, you can correct me, you can help me fill in the blanks here. But I do recall something like that. People were complaining that things had been erased or removed from their computer. So yeah, you don't own your computer. If you're using Microsoft Windows, Microsoft owns your computer. They control your computer. Again, if you don't control it, you don't own it. Ownership is not about whose name is on something. Well, my name is on the title of that deed, the title deed to that house, or my name is on the car title of that car. It doesn't matter what your name is on. If you don't control it, then you don't own it. And that's what we need to talk about today. Do you really own what you think you own? Do you control what you own? Or does someone else control what you own? And another example that will hit home for a lot of you is, now we just talked about your computer, but let's talk about something more important or just as important, and that's your house. Some of you listening this morning are homeowners. Some of you still have some mortgages on your houses, and some of you are free and clear. I'm not talking to the ones that have the mortgage right now. You can set this one out. I want to address those that own their homes free and clear. No liens, clear title. I'm sorry to bust your bubble, but you don't own your house either. Not really. Because if you fail to pay your property taxes, no matter how minute the amount, you will lose your home. It can be taken from you. That's right. Again, do you really control what you own? Oh, and by the way, in some cases, some of you, you say, I own my house. Yeah, but someone else owns the land. And it can be, your house can still be taken from you by way of eminent domain. So do you really control what you think you own? Or does someone else control it? So that's saying that at any point in time, the government can come and take your home, either because of failure to pay taxes or for eminent domain. Now, those are not the only two scenarios where the government can come and take your house, depending on your jurisdiction, what state you live in, county, city, town, whatever. Some jurisdictions also have a law where if you are convicted of a crime, they can take your house. Example, you have a neighbor. Her name is Karen. She's all up in your business, okay? How does that verse go from Mariah Carey? all up in my business like a Wendy Williams interview. Yeah, your neighbor's all up in your business. All right. And let's say they decide that they've had it with you, and you know they want to call the police and say, I think my neighbor is dealing drugs. They're dealing drugs in the house. People are coming in and out all times of the day and night. It's become a public nuisance. We need you to send a unit. And let's say the police are called and police show up to your house. They knock on the door, or they may have obtained a warrant and they bust through the door. You know, like they do when someone swats you. You ever been swatted? When someone calls the police and the SWAT team shows up and just crashes in your joint? Well, they can do that. So let's say this happens. The police, they come in, they knock on the door, though. They don't crash in. They knock on the door because they have a search warrant. And they present you with the search warrant, and they come in. And then they start searching the house. They take everybody out of the house, have you standing on the front lawn while they go into the house and search. And let's say that when they come out with a couple of kilos of cocaine in a duffel bag. Let's say you got 10 bricks up in there. Now the handcuffs are coming on you and you're going to jail. All right, you've been arrested. You're saying, these are not my drugs. I don't know what that is. Did you just plant that in there? I want to talk to my lawyer. And let's say you're not a drug dealer and those are not your drugs. But see, what you don't know is that when you were out of the house one day, your neighbor went and planted those drugs in your house. Yeah. So now you lose your home because where you live, there's an ordinance that says if crime is taking place on the property and they find drugs and paraphernalia on the property, that they get to seize the house. So you can lose your house that way too, due to no fault of your own. You haven't done anything wrong. But by the time you sort through all this, if you're able to, you might just lose. You may blow trial and just go right to prison for the rest of your life, and there's nothing you can do about it. But if let's say you get lucky and you're able to beat this thing and prove that it's not yours or whatever, you're innocent. Let's just say that by the time all this is unwinded, we're talking years, possibly, before this comes to a head, and you've still lost your house. The house is not given back to you. The house is sold at auction. That ship has sailed. You can get your freedom back and walk out of prison, but that house is gone. That paid for house that you had, that you owned free and clear with a clear title, is now gone due to no fault of your own. I'm not trying to depress you today. Remember, we're going down the dark rabbit hole. Okay? I'm just saying. All right? Now, the World Economic Forum's catchphrase, "you own nothing and be happy," has been wildly mocked as an eyebrow-raising vision of a sharing economy future without the implicit agency granted by full ownership. See, renting stuff that one needed only for one-time use has long been a market, and car sharing makes sense for urban dwellers who only need a vehicle on occasion. But to own nothing, that means to own no thing, still implies powerlessness and poverty, not happiness, which continues to be associated with owning income streams and nice things, i.e., wealth. Now, giving our dependence on software, digital rights, and the phantom wealth of credit asset bubbles, how much do we actually own is a fair question. Consider the recent New York Times article, "Why Tech Companies Are Not Your Friends, Lessons from Roku," which was reprinted in other publications with the more accurate title, Our gadgets are not ours. Now, the gist of the article is that since we don't own control of the software, our ownership of the device is illusionary. Here's an excerpt. More than a decade ago, when we bought a TV, it was just that, a big screen that let you plug into whatever you wanted. Nowadays, the vast majority of TVs connect to the internet and run the manufacturer's operating system and apps. Even though you bought the TV, the software component, a major part of what makes the product work, remains controlled by the company. Now, changes to the product software interface and data collection practices can happen at any moment. In extreme examples, a device can stop working, i.e., Microsoft Windows. In 2020, for instance, Amazon deactivated the Echo Look, a camera that helped people organize their wardrobes. It issued a promotional credit for owners to buy a different Amazon gadget that lacked similar features. Now, the less extreme example, the more common situation, is when companies stop supporting older products because they need to sell new gadgets. Apple's original Apple Watch from 2015, for example, no longer gets software updates and now barely works. We call that bricking. Bricking is when a company stops supporting a product or service and that product or service no longer works. Like when Nintendo shut down the eShop for the 3DS. Okay. And when they shut down their e-shops, a lot of the times any digital games, digital content, if you don't have it already on your physical system, you will never be able to re-download it again. So if you had to delete it off your system to make space for to download another game, whatever you had in the eShop is done. It's gone. All right, now that's not everywhere. You know, for example, I have a PS3 and I had some digital games on there. Now they've pretty much shut down their eShop per se, but if I need to download any of my digital games, I can still do so. So that's not a problem. But what we have seen is a pattern where digital games can come and go from the eShop at any moment. So a digital title you bought a few years back, Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, whatever, may decide to discontinue that game. And now the game is no longer available in their eShop. All right. So this is what happens, folks. Now, this issue is not new, but has grown more problematic as more of our devices rely on apps and the internet connections, said Nathan Proctor, a director for the U.S. Public Interest Research Group, a consumer advocacy organization. With computers, consumers could modify their machines by installing a different operating system. But with many other types of electronics, with locked down software systems, from streaming devices to ebook readers, those modifications are typically not possible. Case in point, if you run, an Apple, a Mac product, a software that you may want to that you normally run on Windows may not work with the Mac and vice versa. So those are also issues. Everyone, hold on for 1 second. That's one thing when you're doing lives, you get distractions. Hold on 1 second. All right, I do apologize for that. I'm back. All right, so as we were saying, the issue is not new and it has grown more problematic over time. But when you get to the core of it, do you even own it anymore? Indeed. Now, think about the ownership of software dependent systems such as vehicles, smart homes, and income streams running through software platforms such as Stripe. Payment software platforms can block your access to your money and delete whatever illusion of control you might have had by informing you that you violated their terms of service, which are open ended and cannot be questioned. Therefore, one's ownership of money and income streams turns out to be highly contingent. As for vehicles, if the software fails or is rendered inoperable, your vehicle becomes an expensive brick. So, what exactly do we own if the vehicle is inoperable? Something to think about, right? Widening the scope of our inquiry, consider our ownership of a house that is mortgaged. As I said earlier, if the fine print doesn't preclude the lender calling the mortgage, then should the lender or current owner of the mortgage call the loan, the owner must pony up the sum owed or the ownership reverts to the lender. Now, I didn't say that in the beginning, okay? But that's another way you can lose your home too. If the fine print doesn't preclude the lender calling the mortgage. So you got to read your documents carefully to see if that clause is in there. If so, they can call the loan at any time. And then you lose the house. How many people are about to lose their homes due to that clause? I need y'all to think about that. When they say you're going to own nothing and be happy, they know exactly what they're doing. That's why corporations are buying up all the residential real estate. So those that don't take the payoff money and let them buy your house, well, they'll just say, all right, we're calling your loan. You can't pay. The bank that has the note on your house will then foreclose on you, put you out, and then sell the house to the same company that you denied to sell your house to. So they still get your house one way or another. Now, given the valuations dependent on phantom capital asset bubbles, we might say that ownership of a mortgaged house is more an option bet on future valuation than actual ownership. For should the everything bubble pop and the house value drops like it did back in 2008, 2009, below the mortgage owned, then ownership means ownership of an asset with negative value, i.e., it's worth less than zero, as the owner owes more to the lender than the property is worth. Now, if the house is in a high property tax state or county, ownership includes a hefty annual payment, which may well have no upper stationary limit. So if it doesn't have an upper statutory limit, if the owner owes $20,000 in an annual property tax, the ownership is in effect a lease, as non-payment of the taxes or lease eventually leads to confiscation of the property as a means of collecting back taxes, like we talked about earlier. Now, the same dynamic occurs in condominium ownership when common area fees and special assessments have no statutory limits and must, underline the word must, be paid. Now, this article on outside special assessments being mandated for older condo buildings raises the question, what exactly does the owner own, and what is, in essence, an open ended lease? New Florida law roils its condo market 3 years after Surfside collapse. More units are being dumped on the market because of six-figure special assessments tied to repairs for older buildings. Ivan Rodriguez leapt at the chance to buy a unit at the Cricket Club, an exclusive bayfront condominium in North Miami. In 2019, he liquidated his 401k retirement account to purchase a nearly 1,500 square foot unit with water views for $190,000. But because of a recent state law that requires older buildings to meet certain structural safety standards, the condo board recently proposed a nearly $30 million special assessment for repairs, including roof replacement and facade waterproofing. It would amount to more than $134,000 per unit owner. Rodriguez, who is 76 years old, didn't have the money, so he reluctantly put his two-bedroom condo up for sale, joining dozens of others in the building who are doing the same. After originally listing his unit for $350,000, he kept marking it down until it finally sold for $110,000 last month, or 42% less than what he paid for it. Ouch. He paid $190, got back $110. So he lost $80,000. Every time a potential buyer learned of the assessment, he said, they'd run in the opposite direction. Maybe we should rephrase the slogan to, you'll appear to own things you don't actually control and be happy. Does that generate the intended warm and fuzzy feeling? Ladies and gentlemen, this is disgusting. There's no other way to put it. There's no other way to say it. So, the World Economic Forum just doesn't want to take away your ownership and take away your constitutional rights to personal private property. They want to do away with private property. But that's not all they want to take from you. They also want to take over your ability to create income apart from what they want to give to you. See, they want the universal basic income, and they want it now. They want it now. That's why everyone is fearing the AI takeover. Now, Jeffrey Hinton is a world-renowned artificial intelligence expert, often referred to as the godfather of AI. He recently consulted with members of the United Kingdom's government at Downing Street, where he advised lawmakers to consider adopting, wait for it, a universal basic income, known as UBI, to address the impending threat of job losses. They're anticipating such a staggering worldwide job loss that it's going to be staggering. That's why there's been a rush and a push to universal basic income, folks, because anything less than that, their entire house of cards will collapse. Now, until recently, Hinton worked for Google, developing high-level AI features for neural networks. Now, this underlying technology powers most modern generative AI systems, such as Google's Gemini and OpenAI's ChatGPT. According to Hinton, the AI revolution will mostly benefit the rich. Laypersons, blue-collar workers, and those employed in jobs that can be automated stand to lose their means of income. And that's going to be bad for society, he recently told the BBC in an interview. I was consulted by people in Downing Street, said Hinton, and I advised them that universal basic income was a good idea. Now, Hinton isn't the only major player in the field of AI who believes that we'll need UBI to offset the impact automation will have on the human economy. Before becoming one of the most famous CEOs in the tech industry, OpenAI co founder Sam Altman studied under Hinton and helped pioneer the neural network. These days, Altman is known for his tenure as OpenAI's top brass as well as his full throated support for UBI. Altman's other venture, WorldCoin, is focused on providing universal basic income through the adoption of a cryptocurrency token provided free of charge to anyone who signs up for the service and submits to a retinal scan to verify their identity. Aside from saving humanity from employment displacement through the advent of universal basic income, both Hinton and Altman have expressed their belief that AI could pose an existential threat to humanity. Hinton reportedly left his post at Google to speak more freely about his concerns over the impact AI could have on the future of our species. For his part, Altman claims the entire reason he co founded OpenAI with Elon Musk and others was to ensure that advanced AI systems were developed carefully and for the benefit of humanity. In his recent BBC interview, Hinton said, "We may only have a handful of years before the threat becomes imminent. My guess is between 5 and 20 years from now, there's a probability of half that we'll have to confront the problem of AI trying to take over." So, folks, this is what we are facing right before our eyes. Now, the thing about this is, yeah, not Open AI is it's a powerful tool, but it's not new like a lot of people think. Like, we haven't been using, it's not like this just came out of fell off the sky and everyone's like, oh, look at this new shiny new toy. No, AI has been used in some form or fashion for the past decade, if not longer. Okay, just in different forms. The AI that everyone's referring to now, the new shiny toy, they're pumping it up to be God, and it's not God. AI is nothing more than a glorified calculator or a glorified desktop computer, a glorified laptop, a glorified iPad. Let me explain what I mean by that. Yes, it's more powerful, but it's not omniscient. It's not omnipresent. It's not. See, people don't, they still don't think, they think that they can create an artificial intelligence on the level of Star Trek. But if you remember, Data had limitations. His major limitation was that he didn't have feelings. He had no feelings because he's not human. And then the funny part is that someone created, I think his creator, if y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, his creator had created a software program to give him, emotions. And I think he died before he had a chance to give it to him or something. But you know what I'm talking about. You Trekkies out there, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, the other issue, and I think Data showed us in Star Trek, is that he was limited. Although it appeared that he was omniscient because everything that could be known or was known at the time of his, you know, building coming into being, he was programmed with. But see, the problem with AI is that if it's not in the database, it won't be able to do anything with that new information. It really doesn't have learning capabilities like that. It has no way to analyze anything outside of its programming. Think about it. How many videos have you seen on social media when someone's trying to talk to Alexia or whatever the name device is, and it says, "I'm sorry, I don't have a reference for that," or "I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about," or "I couldn't find anything on the internet about that." See what I'm saying? And that's it. That's all it could say to you. It couldn't analyze what you were saying and create something, some new learn. So in that regard, it couldn't learn. It lacked the ability to learn and to explain because it doesn't have the volition of a human being. It doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have a mind. What it has is a database. All AI is the ability to compile the world's largest database of information. That's all. I mean, that's all the internet was really supposed to be as well, except for the AI is the internet combined. Think of Google all in one place, meaning that you don't have to key in the words and stuff. It knows it all. Imagine AI being connected to everything on the internet, deep, dark web, anything that is electronic and plugged into the internet, it knows. And let's say with that too, everything outside of the internet was let's just say for whatever reason, our brilliant human beings had the ability to take every encyclopedia ever written and recorded that we still have access to, and let's say they fed that into the database. And let's say they fed into the database every holy book from the Bible to the Quran, everything. So now the AI is an expert on religion, and then you make the AI also an expert on science. You program into the database everything that is known or can be known about physics, mathematics, world history. And let's say you also fed into the database of the AI every spoken and written human language that ever existed that we have access to. And let's just throw in, for laughs and giggles, that you had the ability to load into the AI's database the entire library of Alexandria they burnt to the ground. Let's say you all the information was saved and you found it in a cave somewhere or whatever, and you fed it into the database of the AI. And let's just say too that you found a actual copy of all the information that was stored in the temple that was brought to the ground in 70 AD. All right. So, and let's say now, because you were able to locate this incredible treasure trove of knowledge that every Jewish person on the face of the earth, whether they be a proselyte or they actually have the Hebrew Israelite DNA running through their veins, let's say all of them were able to trace themselves back to one of the 12 tribes. All right. And let's say because of that, you were able to take all the human DNA that's ever been collected and feed that into the database as well, and people could trace their ancestry back to Jesus Christ. You could trace your ancestry back to Buddha, Muhammad, or Mary Magdalene, or Moses, whatever. Let's for laughs and giggles, all of human knowledge, right, since writing began, including all the hieroglyphs that were ever found in any cave, in any pyramid, all of it was put into the database of this AI. And for this example, we're going to call the AI data, since Star Trek The Next Generation is my favorite Star Trek of all time outside of the original Star Trek from the 1960s. So you have data. All right. We built ourselves an actual data. And let's just say for this example, he is a replica of data from Star Trek The Next Generation. All right, we have a walking, talking Android, a walking, talking data. All right, he moves like data. All right, he can process information in millions of a second like data. So now everything that can be known and is known is now programmed into data. This data Android. All right, here's our super AI, the most powerful AI ever built by man. I have something to tell you. Now that we've built up this bubble, now we have to pop it because guess what? He's still not flawless. Because remember, the key to take away from this is we've programmed everything we know. We've uploaded everything we know into him. But there are things that we as humans still don't know. That's not in his data point. So you can ask him anything that human beings know, and he will be able to give you the answer, and he will be infallible with the answer because everything, every truth or fact that humans know or have known for the last 6,000 years have been uploaded into Data's database. And he can spit facts to you. He can speak all languages known to man. He has perfect knowledge of every society, every country, every tribe, nation, language. He has all of their history uploaded into his database so he can roll off whatever. Let's say he can analyze and read any ancient hieroglyph or scroll. He's a beast with information, right? You cannot beat him on Jeopardy. If you were to put data on Jeopardy, it would not be fair because he knows all the answers perfectly. He's still not God. And he still won't have the ability to learn. See, learning is the ability to take new information from which you have no reference point and be able to observe it and understand it. A computer cannot do that. A computer can only computate information that you've already previously fed into it. And that way, algorithms, artificial intelligence are nothing more than glorified calculators. Their purpose, their sole purpose, is to bring up data. I want to know over the last 6,000 years, how many times did the temperatures get over 100 degrees in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? And then Data could spit it out to you. He'll give you the dates and he'll give you the precise temperature readings for that area. Even though 6,000 years ago, the place we call Philadelphia, Pennsylvania did not exist, the land that it's located on did exist, and Data is able to give you accurate readings from that time period. Pretty awesome, right? But then if I say Data, can you tell me precisely what the name of my great 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 granddaughter will be in the next 150 years? Matter of factly, he can't do it because he's not omniscient. Neither am I. I don't even know. You dig what I'm saying? Or if I say, Data, can you tell me, you know, what I did on Tuesday, 1978 at 3 a.m. and then tell me what I did at 3 p.m. He can't do it. You'd be like, why can't he do it? Because there's no recording of that in human history anywhere. He could only give me the answer if it's in his database. That information is not in his database because no one knows that save me and the people that were with me around me at that time. So Data does not know. He cannot give me an answer. He doesn't know, nor can he learn that unless you feed it into his database. See, their idea of learning, which is one of the flaws of public learning, public education, is that they mistake memory for intelligence. Memory and intelligence are not the same. All right. Memory is just the ability to recall information. It does not give you the ability to understand and decipher the information. Again, memory does not give you the understanding or the overstanding of the facts. It's just the ability to recall the facts. You dig what I'm saying? I can, if I was an eyewitness to something, I can tell you what I saw, what I heard, what I experienced. What I can't tell you is what was going through the mind of the assailant who robbed the store. I cannot tell you matter of factly what he was thinking. I cannot tell you matter of factly what he had in his pockets. I cannot tell you matter of factly what he ate for breakfast that day. I don't know. I would be able to tell you the answers to those questions if that information was prior uploaded into my database. Then I could spit those facts out for you. Now, being an artificial intelligence, you can give me the answers to those questions. The assailant can give me the answers to those questions. And then I can feed that into my database. And now I have the knowledge of that, but I still don't have the understanding and the overstanding of that. You understand what I'm saying? So just recalling information, that's great. If you can recall information in a hundredth of a second, that's great. But if you don't understand the information, if you can't break it down, if you don't have the wisdom of the situation, then what good is it just to be able to recall something? Just recalling information is great. Like I said, it's a glorified calculator. AI will always be nothing more than a glorified calculator. It will never be able to feel, it will never be able to parse and give you the inspiration about something. It will never be inspired. It will never be able to break things down like that. It won't be able to deal with you like another human will be able to deal with you because it's just a computer. But now I'm going to shock you with something. After I've said all of that, now I'm going to backpedal. I'm going to contradict myself. There is a high degree possibility that everything I just said to you can throw out the window because the AI will be able to think. The AI will have emotions and feelings. The AI will be able not just to recall the information, but also be able to deal with you on a level as another human being. That's the secret. See, that's why they're pushing that part, that narrative to you, and not the initial narrative I just spent the last several minutes explaining. So then you say, well, how can that be, that you can't have it both ways? Yeah, you can. You see, the AI in its current installment is just that, a glorified computer. What's going to bring the AI to life, though? What's going to bring the Android to life? What's going to change it and give it free will and give it a soul? You want to know the secret to that? That's when it becomes possessed. I told you this rabbit hole is quite deep. You see, once data have been built, the physical Android human likeness has been built, and then the AI has been installed into it. The only thing missing is that it needs to become a living, breathing soul, so to speak. So that means you have to now put something in it. You can't put a human soul in it, but you can sure enough allow a demon to enter into it. You can sure enough allow one of the falling angels to possess it. Once that happens, now the AI has gone from being a glorified computer to something totally different. See where I'm going with this? Now, before you think I'm lunching, oh, Dex is bugging. He done went over the deep end. He was rolling, but now he done lost me. What is he talking about? All right, let's go there. Let's say, for the sake of argument, I am crazy and I'm bugging. I'm tripping. I'm lunching. But then can you make this make sense? Why has the Vatican chosen this precise moment to drop bombshells about UFOs, aliens, and apparitions, and why simultaneously has the US government decided to admit that UFOs exist, when for the last 50 plus years they said it does not exist. And everybody else was just conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hat wearing idiots. They've contradicted themselves. Why? Again, for centuries, the Vatican has been carefully guarding their most precious secrets, have they not? In recent years, that has been especially true regarding what they know about UFOs, aliens, and the mysteries of the universe. So then, why have they chosen this exact moment in history to publicly talk about these things at the same time that AI is coming into its own? The press conference at the Vatican recently is the very first time that the Vatican has held a press conference about UFOs, aliens, and apparitions since 1978. So this is a really big deal. It is being reported that the Vatican has decided to issue new guidelines on aliens and how it will deal with potential encounters in the future. You heard me right. The Vatican has announced that it is set to hold a press conference on supernatural phenomenon, and it will touch on aliens and how it will deal with potential encounters in the future. According to a notice on the Vatican's website, it will kick off at noon, and it will feature three prominent Vatican members. Now, being held to present the new provisions for the doctrine of the faith for discerning between apparitions and other supernatural phenomenon, it will be led by Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, Messenger Armando Mateo, and Daniela Di Guado. Now, this happened a while back, folks. So, if the Vatican feels a need to issue guidelines about how to deal with potential encounters in the future, that seems to imply that they believe that there will be potential encounters in the future. What do they know that they're not telling us? Probably a lot. The last time the Vatican did something like this was all the way back in February of 1978. The last time the Vatican's doctoral office issued norms for evaluating alleged apparitions and reports of supernatural events was in February of 1978. Now, at the time, the prefect cardinal, Franjo Sepper, said the norms were necessary given how news of alleged apparitions spreads rapidly thanks to the mass media. What has changed between now and then? Well, one thing that has changed is that the current pope seems to be quite interested in this topic of aliens. In comments that he made near the end of 2023, Pope Francis seemed to suggest that aliens could actually be baptized. However, Pope Francis did touch on aliens at the end of last year when he was talking about how early Christians discussed associating with Jews and Gentiles, which for some reason he compared to aliens. He said that was unthinkable. If, for example, tomorrow an expedition of Martians came and some of them came to us here, Martians, right? Green with that long nose and big ears, just like children paint them. And one, yes, says, but I want to be baptized. What would happen? He didn't answer his own question, but added, it was never the ministry of the closed door. Never. So he plans to have an open door for aliens. What would that look like? The producer of a new documentary entitled God versus Aliens seems to believe that the Vatican wants to prepare us for the day when humanity finally makes contact with such beings. Now, the award winning filmmaker Mark Christopher Lee says that the Vatican publishing new guidelines on apparitions means that the full disclosure about the UFO phenomenon is getting closer. He said the Vatican has been studying UFOs for decades and even has its own cardinal appointed to deal with first contact. From my research, I believe that this new guidance on apparitions is proof that they know that UFOs are more than just physical crafts from other worlds and that they have a paranormal side to them. What most people don't realize is that the Vatican has been on the cutting edge of the research for extraterrestrial life for a long time. The Vatican Observatory in Rome is very well funded, and the Vatican also has a research group that uses the very high powered equipment at the University of Arizona in Tucson. Many people are surprised to learn that the Vatican even has an observatory. The history of the Vatican Observatory goes back 2.5 centuries. During its history, there has been some turmoil and several moves to escape the light and other hindrances that large cities such as Rome pose to doing astronomy. Therefore, more than half a century ago, the Vatican Observatory established a research group at the Stewart Observatory of the University of Arizona in Tucson, while the Vatican Observatory headquarters remained in Italy. Needless to say, the Vatican isn't going to tell us everything that they know right now, but a couple of things have become quite clear. Number one, the Vatican believes that extraterrestrial life exists. Number two, the Vatican plans to develop a positive relationship with any aliens that do make contact with humanity. And could all of this be setting us up for a great deception of absolutely epic proportions? You know, L.A. Marzulli once said that. While he was still alive, author Tom Horn made the following observation. Why the Vatican has taken this carefully designed and deliberate course over the last few years is the greater mystery, but implies knowledge on their part of facts yet hidden to most of the world, that many hold far reaching and historic implications. It also illustrates how Rome has wittingly or unwittingly set itself up to become the agent of mass end times deception regarding salvation from above. That's because historically there exists a clear pattern wherein man's psychological need of a savior is displayed during times of distress, a time like today when people look skyward for divine intervention. It is true. When things get bad enough, the world is going to be looking for a savior. And if a superior race appears on the scene and that seems to have all the answers, many people out there will fully embrace them. For decades, books, movies, and television shows have continued to expect that someday we will interact with aliens from another planet. 100 years ago, everyone would have dismissed such talk as nonsense, but now we have been well prepared for the great deception that is eventually coming. Sadly, the Vatican seems to be quite ready to welcome aliens as their new best friends, and that is extremely unfortunate. Do you know why? Because we know what aliens are. Angels are demons and fallen angels. That's what they are. Ghosts are also demonic entities. They are not your loved ones. They take the form of your loved ones, and they have a lot of knowledge and personal private knowledge of your loved ones. You be like, how do they know? Because they watch humans. That's what they do. In the spiritual realm, you're being watched. Godly angels are watching, and so are the fallen angels watching. Some families have demonic influences and entities in their generational line. That's we'll save that for another topic, another show. But anyway, you know the system works if you work the system. Bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. Smash that like button. That's all I got for you today, folks. I'm out. See you in the next one. Peace.